Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Everyone all set, cocked, locked. Here we go. Your dial set correctly to USA Prepares. Thank you for being with us. Dr. Shealy, are you blissed?
Yeah.
Jeez. Before we get into some of things I've got on my list, are there things that you'd like to share with us that are on your list for this morning?
Well, everything.
Okay. Anything in specific?
Well, I met yesterday with the narcotic addicts in my study. That was interesting. I'll talk about that if you like.
Yeah, please do.
Well, 8 of the 10 were there. This is run by the North Side Assembly of God Church. They call it the House of Hope. And they've been doing this for about 11 years. And originally they started out only with women in their addiction program, but eventually they've added men. And in my particular program, 7 are women and 3 are men. Interestingly, many of them actually came there after getting out of prison, but didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, still were desperate and still had all the cravings and all that. 3 of them were there by the judge's order. Those who came by judge's order had to have their urine checked every day of the week for drugs and wear an ankle alarm bracelet. The others just had random checks of their urine. But at any rate, the bottom line is that cravings, night sweats, nightmares, all went down well over 99% using the Chakra Suite PEMF.
99%.
I know nothing that comes close to that. The average addiction program has a long-term success rate of 17%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what is the long-term plan for these narcotic addicts to use your pulsed electromagnetic frequency device?
Well, they are going to be given, since they volunteer to be in the research project, they will be given their device to take, cause they call it their halo, and they all love it, and they all use it, and so we will be following them for at least a couple of years.
Okay. It sounds like something that that those who are helping people with addiction should be really very interested in, and
I hope
there
so.
Should be a line around the block in Springfield where your office is.
Yes.
Okay. So for those who would like to get one of these pulsed electromagnetic frequency devices, PEMF, that you make with Lou Cassidy, what would you like them to do? Do they contact you through your office? Are they available?
Yeah, if they want to talk to me about it, because for addiction, narcotic addiction especially, then I'd like them to contact me by email. If they just want to buy it, they can go to a website and get it there. It's called the Shealy Soren Chakra Suite, PEMF.
Okay. Shealy Soren, as in Dr. Norm Shealy, medical doctor, and Dr. Sergey Soren, medical doctor. Shealy Soren Chakra Suite, PEMF. Okay. Class, I have one. And if you're interested, there's a an antenna ring, very much like think of it like if you were to put your fingers to make a circle, your two thumbs and your two forefingers, and you would separate them by about 4 inches. That would be the size of this halo. And it's attached with a pair of wires to a driver. And there's a computer control, and it will pulse electromagnetic frequencies into this coil, which is an antenna, and it will deliver these frequencies to your body. And Dr. Shealy, so they wore it on their head. Would it have worked if they wore it someplace else, or is this because it's a brain function that is causing them to be addicted?
Well, it will work, and they've all. By the way, most of them have pain in various places, so they've used it around their areas of pain with great success. But they've all used it at least an hour a day on the head. On the other hand, we have tested me sitting on it, and my EEG still goes into gamma. It's not quite as strong a gamma, but at least it's gamma. So you will get it anywhere you put it on the body, essentially. But for the addiction, I recommend strongly that they do it at least an hour a day on the head.
Okay. And have you recommended any supplements to go with this? For example, have you? Okay.
Obviously I'd like to, but I wanted to make it as pure as possible.
Okay. So it was not, the results were not altered in any way, shape, or form by change of diet, change of supplements, change of regime.
Exactly.
Or regimen. Okay.
And I also want to comment, because I was exquisitely impressed with the minister, the pastor at this Northside Assembly of God Church. A really nice guy. I mean, I think as I said to him, I think you are doing what churches are meant to do.
That's fabulous. It really is nice. Rick Miller has a saying, Dr. Richard Allen Miller, and he says, God has everything, but he needs more money.
Well, unfortunately, that's true, but it's nice when they use it the right way.
You bet. You bet. Class, if you'd like to call us, we'll pay for the call, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. Telephone listen lines up and running, 605-477-3249. Dr. Shealy, I have a device. Bert Bertonis, Senior USA Preparedness Instructor, visited me several years ago at the farmhouse, and I've known Bert for a long time. And so he left me with this device. He had two of them, and it's called it's made by a company called TrendNet, TrendNet. And this particular device is a TEW-T1. It's a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi detector. It's about the size of a deck of cards, a little thinner than a deck of cards, but, physically the surface area is about the same. It detects Wi-Fi, microwaves, cordless phones, and hidden cameras. And it has a signal strength meter. It's kind of like an LED bar graph. So I turned it on last night. I just thought, let me try it again. And I've been trying it for years. This darn thing was going off like crazy. It said we had Wi-Fi. It said we had microwaves. It said we had a hidden camera. And so I'm thinking, all right, I got to find these things. Now, I know where every wire in this house is because I put every single wire in this house. So it's not like we bought a house and there are hidden wires in the walls and ceilings and floors, and I know where they all are. Well, this thing was going off, so I decided, all right, I'm in the studio. I was in the studio last night. All right, let me shut down all the computers. Let me unplug everything. It's still going off. And I would go from room to room, and some rooms had less microwave strength. And I'm thinking, where is this coming from? Well, I went into the bedrooms, I went into the sitting room, I went into the studio, I went into the living room, I went into the kitchen, went upstairs, I went outside. And what I noticed was, outside there was some, but not very much, which was reassuring. So it's coming from in the house, but where? Then I put it against an iPad. I was given an iPad years ago by a company that wanted me to use it for business. And I've had that thing off for a long time. The battery's charged, but it was off. That darn thing was transmitting. Off. We have an Apple computer here. It was transmitting. Off. How's that possible? Plugged in but off. And then I thought, how is this possible? So I unplugged everything from power. And this thing is still reading that there's microwave radiation in the house. And we had a guest who stayed with us, actually a couple guests over the Christmas holidays. And this guest left a hanger, a dry cleaning type hanger that you would get. You know, your shirts, if you have them dry cleaned, they would come in a little plastic bag, clear plastic bag with a little inexpensive, flimsy Chinese hanger. And I thought, let me just put this hanger on the bed, which is non-conductive. You know, it's a bedspread. So I put the hanger on the bed, and I put this meter next to the hanger, and it was going off like crazy. So I thought, all right, we have a stand that holds a camera for photographing small things, kind of like if you were trying to photograph down with a 35 millimeter camera onto a photo bed. So it's a wooden stand with a metal insert on the stand. It rises up about 18 inches. I put it next to that, and it was going off. Now, that's not connected to anything. There's no power to it. So then I connected it to, or I placed it next to a network switch, which is an Ethernet switch. It's an old one, 10/100 megabits per second. And I had three cables going into it, plus a power cord, and it was going off like mad when it was powered up. So I disconnected the power. It's still going off like mad. So I disconnected the wires. It was still going off like mad. So now I have this box. It's like the size of a cigar box, but thinner. Disconnected from everything. No wires, no power, off, and it's going off like mad. I'll tell you what I think this means when we come back, but it's very disconcerting, and I don't know how to fix it. Dr. Shealy and I'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy's with us, and if you'd like to contact Dr. Shealy, Norm at normshealy.com. Norm, N-O-R-M, at Norm Shealy, Norm, NORMSHEALY.com. So, Dr. Shealy, so I have this TrendNet TEW-T1 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi detector. And I was using it throughout the house trying to figure out where these signals are coming from. And it was very difficult. And the bottom line is I don't know. I really don't know where they're all coming from because they seem spurious. They just show up, they come, they go, they come, they go. But every couple of seconds, this device tells me that it's detecting microwave radiation. And it has an alarm that goes off when it hits a high level. Bottom line is, I use this against all kinds of metal things. Pair of scissors, a hanger, a pair of scissors with a plastic handle, a hanger, a photography stand with a metal support in it, a completely disconnected, wired Ethernet router. So I had an Ethernet switch. So all this thing does is you plug 8 wires into it, 8 cables, like one to each computer kind of a thing, Ethernet cables. Normally you'd plug it into a standard household outlet, 120 volts. But with the power disconnected, the power cord disconnected, all the Ethernet cables disconnected, just the box with no power, has no battery, has no memory, this thing is picking up microwave radiation.
Now, Vince,
Yes?
That is worrisome, because that really means that no matter where you are practically on the face of the earth, this stuff is there.
That's exactly correct, Dr. Shealy.
And
so what I did was, on the second story of our house, there's a window that I can look out. And, I several windows. And I put this device in the windows, and I didn't pick up anything specific out of the windows. Now, the windows have screens on them, but the screens are plastic screens. They're like a nylon or rayon fabric that's coated with a gray plastic material. So they look like an aluminum screen, but they're not. They're not metal. They are a non-conducting material. And I thought, you know what, there's a microwave tower a couple miles away. Maybe that's it. So I aimed this device at that microwave tower. And it didn't pick up anything specific. But it will if I put this device near what could be an antenna. And the antenna could be a metal box. It could be that camera support. It could be a coat hanger or a shirt hanger. It's metal.
Or
anything
your
that's
brain.
metal.
Or your brain.
Yes. Right. So this was in preparation for, I want to do some experimentation to reduce the presence of the smart meters that we have here. I want to protect myself and our family and our animals and the trees and plants and everything and the bugs, everything. Well, I wanted to get a baseline, and the baseline is microwaves everywhere. And it seems that anything metal picks up these microwave frequencies and acts as an antenna. So here it is. Let's see. Now, I don't know if you could hear that beeping before.
I did hear it, yeah.
Let's see if we can hear it some more.
Yep.
Okay, now, so the question is, what did I do? I have a little USB charging cable for a small USB device. Actually, it happens to be for a blood pressure cuff. So this particular blood pressure cuff has looks like about 30-inch long piece of wire, USB connector on one end, and a small USB connector on the other end. And it's connected to absolutely nothing. I'm holding it in my hand, and I'm using that as an antenna against this microwave detector device, and you heard it going off. That's it. We'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, medical doctor. So, Dr. Shealy, what I've learned is from this experiment is that microwaves are everywhere in our house, even though we don't think we have devices that are running microwave type technology. For example, we have a router in our house, and it's an internet router. It's connected to a DSL landline wires, and all the devices that are connected to that are connected through Ethernet twisted pair cable, Cat5e cable, and the wireless transmitter is turned off. So you can go into the device, you can connect to it by typing on your browser 192.168.1.1 typically, and you can configure that if you have the password and the device, login. And you can say router, wireless transmitter on, and then you can set the level at 10% power, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100% power level coming out of it. So you can turn it on or off, and you can set the power level. It's set to off. The light that shows, the front light on this device shows that it is not transmitting, yet we have wireless type transmissions in our house that are not something that we know about. And so at this point, I don't know where it's coming from. So I have to get some more test equipment that will give me a very precise directional antenna so I can just walk around the house and point and point and point, and aim this device to figure out exactly what it is and where it's coming from. But I got to tell you, I don't like it.
Well, I don't like it either because it means that you out there in the middle of the country, if you will, on a farm, are being bombarded. And so what about us poor folk when I'm at my clinic here in Springfield? I bet it's 10 times as much.
Well, I'm sure it is. I'm sure it is. As a matter of fact, I was planning to come to Springfield today, and if it works out, Dr. Shealy, would it be okay if I stopped in at your office and brought this, and we'll just take a look?
More than okay. It would be wonderful.
Well, this might ruin your day. So literally, you heard it beeping, and all I did was take a piece of charging cable, not connected to the wall, not connected to AC current, not connected to any device, just a piece of wire with two connectors, USB on one end and a small USB connector on the other end that's used to power a blood pressure cuff.
Now, Vince, you've got a
piece
Gauss
of wire.
You've got a Gauss meter, right? A
I do.
meter?
Yep. Yes.
Well, 12 years ago in the city of Springfield, just walking around outside my clinic building there on Evergreen, there was a 2 to 3 milligauss of electricity everywhere, right here in the city of Springfield. I haven't gone outside and measured again, but I know it's still everywhere. And so if that's there, we know this other stuff's even heavier.
Well, Dr. Shealy, I've got some great news. Lou Cassidy, USA Preparedness instructor, engineer, designer, has just called in. He's on the air with us right now. Thanks for calling in, Lou.
Good morning, guys.
Good snow day.
It is. We got about 11, a little over 11 inches here over the weekend. So.
Yeah, you're just, east of St. Louis, right?
Yeah, just east of St. Louis. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I called in to talk about the readings you're getting off a coat hanger and stuff. I think that's probably just, you're picking up the microwaves either from your own Wi-Fi stuff or, like you said, from that tower. And those wavelengths are measured in millimeters, and if you take a multiple wavelength antenna like a coat hanger, it would be multiple wavelengths on, in the millimeter wavelength section there. And I bet if you take that coat hanger and orient it in different directions on your bed there, you'd pick up different readings too. Have you tried that?
Well, that was I tried that when I was just demonstrating with a piece of wire, let's say 30 inches long, here in the studio on the air. I couldn't really orient this loop of wire, but I will with the coat hanger. During the next break, I'll go get a coat hanger, and
there you
we'll
go.
See. But
science on
but
air.
Lou, I was
try it on there.
Yeah.
Just turn it 90 degrees and stand it up and lay it down and different stuff. I bet you get different readings because you're reading the coat hanger is acting as an antenna, just picking up as a multi-wavelength antenna, picking up probably from your tower or from your own Wi-Fi. You get all kinds of...
Well, we don't have Wi-Fi.
Oh, you turn it off.
Well, Wi-Fi's...
Okay.
Yeah. And poor John Statmiller was visiting us, and he wanted Wi-Fi, and I said, we don't have Wi-Fi. So I took a pair of eyeglasses with a metal frame, and I'm kind of using that as a directional antenna. I've got them folded up, and it seems to be 360 degrees, or darn close to it.
Oh, okay, I can hear it.
Even vertically. Yeah. So
spread the earpieces out.
Got to get
different.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Nothing. So let me put the eyeglasses here.
Yeah, turn them 90 degrees.
You can't see this, but it has a bar graph, and it's maxed out. It's maxed out, blinking, and it says hidden camera. Well, it may not be a hidden. If there's a hidden camera,
the government's closer than you think.
I'm going to test it. There's a hidden camera. I'm going to test it with projectiles to see how well it holds up.
There you go.
Yeah, and maybe it's true. Maybe there is a hidden camera here. I mean, that will totally frost everybody in the house. Well, now it's saying Wi-Fi, hidden camera. Before it was saying, okay, now this is really interesting. So I have just a standard pair of glasses, okay, with a metal frame. I'm holding this near the microphone and near my face to look at it. And it's blinking microwaves, maximum power level. When I put the glasses next to it,
you're being fried.
It changes to hidden camera. It changes, and it thinks it's a hidden camera. So the metal frame of the glasses seems to affect what this device thinks is happening. It changes the frequency that's picking up. I move the glasses away, and it goes to microwave. So there's something going on in our house.
Do you have a phone system?
No, we have a phone that has a landline. But I tried a cordless phone, and that triggers this as well.
Yeah, the cordless phones up there are the same band as your Wi-Fi and your cell phones and all that stuff. Nobody left a cell phone at your house, did they, over the weekend?
I sure hope not.
Yeah, you got something going on there.
Lou, you've been here, and pretty much everything's wired. And it's not like if I visit a friend's house, and I have in years past, with an iPad to broadcast remotely, and you turn on the iPad and you're looking for a Wi-Fi signal because the iPad does not have a jack. It's all wireless. There's no way you can connect it physically to an Ethernet cable. And I turn that on to search for a Wi-Fi signal, and it would be a bunch of them. So if I were in a neighborhood, there'd probably be 8, 9, 10, Wi-Fi signals inside the house I'm at, where there's one Wi-Fi signal. So those signals go, from house to house to house to house. And that's a concern too. I was at a building waiting in the waiting room I was a designated driver waiting in a waiting room. And there were law offices in this building, and they're, just in a city. Gosh, there was probably darn close to 20 Wi-Fi signals that I could pick up if I had, if I had wanted to and I had the password. So I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I think these signals are everywhere, and I think it's going to be very difficult to get away from them, even though there's nothing here where I live.
Right. And even if you don't have a tower nearby, the satellites are showering us with that stuff from above. It's a lot weaker from the satellites, but it's still there.
And what I found, our house is stone. It's very thick stone walls. It's not like what some people refer to as lick-em and stick-em stone, which is like but these are there's a couple hundred tons of stone that we bought to put on this house, and we used a lot of it. So the walls are pretty thick. And if you get into a place where two walls come together, it seems that there's less electromagnetic radiation in some parts of the house than others, because the house has lots of turns and twists and angles. But the thing that... yes?
Have you gone down in the basement?
No, I have not. That's next. But I'm on this search to find out where this darn thing is, or where they are.
A lot of the
Lou, is there another kind of piece of equipment that you recommend? Will an oscilloscope, if I had an oscilloscope, would that go high enough in frequency to help me find where this is?
You would need a spectrum analyzer.
Okay. Well, I know Bert has one, but
Speaking of spectrum analyzers, is ours working?
I have not gotten to it yet.
Okay.
I'll do that before my next trip down.
Okay, spectrum analyzer. Do you have an idea what one of those would cost used?
Norm does.
I paid something like, I don't remember, $65,000 for one back in the early 80s. In the mid-90s.
Okay.
They're much
Spectrum
less.
analyzer.
Yeah.
Okay, is that a tube model or a transistorized or solid state?
I think it's all modern.
The one he's got a
All right.
headlet tube, the display tube.
Okay, we'll be right back. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us. Lou Cassidy is with us. Both USA Preparedness instructors, and we're talking about electromagnetic radiation in our house here at the farm. And I've been very, very careful to avoid these kinds of frequencies at our farm. And everything is wired. So what I did at Lou Cassidy's suggestion just during the break was go down to the basement with this device. And here's what I found out, Lou and Dr. Shealy. As I went down the stairs, and the stairs are wooden stairs, as I went down a quarter of the way down, I still had these readings of electromagnetic radiation, the same as at the top of the stairs. And when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I still had some, but when I went deeper into the basement, it stopped.
Good.
It
Okay.
absolutely stopped.
That means, to me,
So I have to live underground.
that proves, our thought. It may be coming from the tower, but it may be everywhere, even without the tower.
Yeah, the Earth is a good shield.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Lou, do you have a suggestion as to what type of a device that I pursue trying to figure this out?
Well, during the break, I looked up online the price of the modern spectrum analyzers, and for what you're looking for, you could get one for $5,000-$6,000.
Oh, wow.
Far cry
Okay.
from 60, isn't it?
And yeah. Now, so what would this be? Would it be a Tektronix type device? Well,
No, this
is it going to look like an oscilloscope with?
Yeah, it looks like an oscilloscope. Only nowadays they have flat LCD screens on them with computer generated graphics and all that stuff on them. Like whereas Norm's spectrum analyzer uses the old CRT. It was it was good technology for the day, but it used a CRT. The new ones are much smaller, lighter, and the one I was quoting there for $5,000-$6,000 was a Regal. They're made in China. They're good stuff. They're not a Tektronix.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. I just wrote that down. All right. I will look into that. But this is a real problem because what I'm hearing from people across the United States, coast to coast, that they're tired, they're worn out, they can't get started, they can't continue. What I'm saying is they don't have stick-to-itiveness, that old term that we grew up with. They don't have the starting power to start a project. I guess they'll sit down and they'll say, you know what, there's a couple prerequisites to get started. It's too complicated. I guess whatever it is. If it's, painting the room, we have to move the furniture, then we have to put we have to put a tarp down. We got to stir the paint. Oh man, this is. Then we're gonna have to clean the brushes. This is gonna be too much. So let's just not paint. I mean, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. We just can't get, and that would be a big project for a lot of people. Little projects they can't do either. That's too complicated.
I call that getting your motor.
Getting the vacuum out to vacuum. Yeah. That's right. And I have a feeling that some of this inability to get started with a project relates to these electromagnetic frequencies that are disrupting our biological/electrical bodies so that we just can't. Is that possible, Dr. Shealy? I
wrote a paper on electromagnetic dysthymia. Oh my gosh, 20 years ago. Yes, I do believe that this artificial, if you will, generated electromagnetic energy is dangerous to our brain and therefore to our body as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And are we finding out that the higher the frequency, generally speaking, the more dangerous it is? Meaning, when we get from long waves.
I'm not so sure about the specific frequencies, but any electromagnetic energy is potentially dangerous, and especially microwave, because our human DNA is 52 to 78 billion cycles a second.
Lou Cassidy, when we come back, can you share with us the length of, let's say, one cycle of AM radio versus FM radio versus microwave? Would you be able to share that with us?
Yeah.
The physical length in feet or inches?
Yeah, ballpark.
Yeah. Okay. We'll be right back. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Dr. Norman Shealy, medical doctor, was with us, and Lou Cassidy in Illinois is with us. And we were going to talk about the length of some of these wavelengths, like AM radio, FM radio, and microwaves. Just a rough idea. How long is a wavelength? One wavelength of these frequencies, Lou Cassidy?
Well, a wavelength at, say, 4 gigahertz, which is around where your cordless phones and some of your Wi-Fi and stuff like that, is 7.5 centimeters, which is about roughly 3 inches. So if you would take your coat hanger and say your coat hanger was 15 inches, that would be 5 wavelengths at that frequency, roughly.
Okay.
If you're looking at...
Yeah.
Okay, if you're looking at lower frequencies like AM broadcast band, say KMOX in St. Louis is 1120, just a little over a megahertz. That's 300 meters, and you take that roughly 900 feet wavelength, something like that.
Okay, so to be clear for our class who may be wondering what we're talking about, so let's say you wanted, we're talking about a sine wave, okay? So if you were to lay a sine wave on its side horizontally, and you would have that S crossing the horizontal, so you'd have the lobe at the top and the lobe at the bottom. That would be a complete sine wave, or one cycle. And how long is that in feet? Well, if you're talking about 4 gigahertz, it's about 3 inches long, okay, 1/4 of a foot. And you're talking about, if it's AM, around 1,000 kilohertz, or 1 megahertz, we're talking about 900 feet long. And then what about FM radio? And I know that when we used to have those vertical stainless steel antennas on our cars, in the front right quarter panel, sticking pretty much straight up, they were about 28.5 inches to 30.5 inches. And I believe that was 1/4 of a wavelength, center of the dial, between 88 and 108 megahertz FM. So that would mean that the full wavelength would be around 114 inches. Is that right, Lou?
Yeah, well, at 100 megahertz, the center of the FM band, the wavelength is 3 meters, and that converts to, roughly 9-10 feet. So 1/4 of that would be about what you're talking. Yeah, 1/4 wave antenna is the smallest antenna that you can effectively use.
Okay. Well, let me just revert to a story in Springfield, Missouri, and this happened several years ago. There's and this relates to the frequencies that we're talking about. So there was a problem. People were driving their keyless start vehicles into this mall. They would drive into the mall, they'd get out, lock their door, and go shopping, come back, and they pushed the button, and they could not unlock their door. They had these electronic keys, and they couldn't get in their vehicles. Or if they could get in their vehicles wouldn't start. And they would tow the vehicle. They'd call the towing company. They'd tow the vehicle to the dealership. They'd get the vehicle off the towing truck, and try it. Let's see if this thing starts. And it would start right up. And it happened to all of them. They all experienced the same problem. And it seemed that no one could figure this out. And Bert Bertonis, a radio frequency engineer in California, said, well, I think I know what the problem is. I mean, right away he said, I think I know what the problem is. I think that someone set up an FM transmitter near the middle of the dial, around 100 megahertz, and that FM transmitter is the third harmonic, or 3 times the frequency of these. I'm sorry, the keyless remote is 3 times the frequency of the FM middle of the dial. So the FM transmitter was impacting, overpowering the keyless remote. And that's what it was. That's literally what the problem was. So we are now seeing that there's so much energy in the air, so much power in the air, that it's really getting to be quite dangerous. Does that make sense to you, what I just said, Lou Cassidy?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the keyless entry thing, if it's any wavelength or multiple wavelength away from that, it'll just it'll swamp the receiver is what we call it. The receiver won't be able to hear your signal because it is already swamped with a larger signal of the same frequency or a multiple wavelength of that frequency. Exactly.
Okay. Alex, I've got a test for you. Alex is our engineer at GCN. Alex, we've got Dr. Norman Shealy on the line. We've got Lou Cassidy on the line. And we've got Jerry in Chicago who wants to be on the line. But I'd like Jerry in Chicago to be able to talk with Lou Cassidy and Dr. Norman Shealy. Can you make that happen, Alex? Can you do that, Alex? Well, do you want me to do it? I don't want to lose Lou. I mean, I can do it from here in Missouri, but is there something that I need to do? Okay. Uh-oh. Okay, Jerry in Chicago.
Yep. Hello, Vince.
You're on.
Hi,
you're on, but I don't see Lou Cassidy anymore. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. We lost Lou. Okay. Good morning, Dr. Norm. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. What's going on?
Sounds great. Norm, I ran into you guys several years ago at one of the USA Prepares Expos, and I was one of your Cayenne subjects who sat down there and was able to drink your product and have my blood pressure lowered immediately, which was amazing. The trick is to do this full time. But, my biggest problem, I was chasing it. When I met you, I didn't know what the basis of my ongoing situation was. But I have psoriasis and psoriatic arthritis. At the time, I was just aching everywhere with various other problems. But until my psoriasis became full-blown, nobody was able to diagnose it. They were chasing various things around. And since that time, oh boy, I can't even begin to tell you what treatments I've had and tried to no avail, being that this is an autoimmune disease. And I was wondering if there's anything of an electrical nature that possibly might be used to help to reset the frequencies in my body here to help alleviate this problem.
Yes. The one thing that I know would be either a Rejuvenatrix mattress or the copper pyramid with the Tesla coil hooked to it. I treated, way back in the mid-'90s, I treated a number of people with rheumatoid arthritis, which is a relative, if you will, of psoriasis.
Yes.
With great success, having to sit in this copper pyramid activated by a Tesla coil.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's great because, this is a severe case, and I've tried, various products. I was even on a study here which had limited success, and I'm kind of afraid of this when they start using the biologics and things. We don't know what the long-term effects of this stuff is, Basically, it shuts your immune system down incrementally, And in today's world, we need not only an immune system, but a stronger one yet.
I agree with you totally.
Yeah. Okay, so what's the thought that possibly I should come out to see you and visit with you? We could do it that way, or how is the best way to proceed with this, Norm?
Well, send me an email, and I'll tell you the options.
Oh, that would be great.
Actually, we just mailed shipped one of the copper pyramid systems to Australia, so it is possible to put it together and use it at home.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I want to thank Vince on the air for bringing all of these little tidbits of wisdom to the public, the American public, that they should want to know about. We're going to have to continue our conversation some other time as to how we can reach the people, because things are changing quickly, and with all the new 4G, 5G coming out now, this ought to be really interesting for the human species.
Right.
With that said, Norm, I appreciate that, because supplements, I've tried them all. I've even tried obscure ones that they show some limited success in the different medical publications and everything, and it's been to no avail at this point in time, and I've got to get these things taken care of so that you can move forward in life. You know how it is, right?
I do. And
your health is your wealth. Without that, all the rest is meaningless.
You got it. Okay, Norm at normshealy.com.
Okay, Norm. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
All right, bye-bye.
Thank you, Jerry. Okay, Lou, you're with us, right?
Right, I'm back.
Great. Okay. Dr. Shealy, you mentioned the copper pyramid. Can you describe physically the size of this copper pyramid?
Yes, the base is 54 by 54 inches, so 4.5 feet square base, and the height is approximately 7 feet.
Okay. And then is that electrically insulated?
No, it's actually just pure copper tubing.
Okay.
All hooked together, but then you attach to it a Tesla coil that activates it, and then when you do that, the entire interior of that pyramid and about 2 feet around it is filled with 52 to 78 billion cycles a second, or human DNA frequency. 52 to 58.
Dr. Norm Shealy is with us. Lou Cassidy is with us. So, Dr. Shealy, my research about these copper tubing type pyramids, there's one thing that's consistent with many of them, and that is that they are all square at the base, meaning the length and depth are the same. However, what's different about them is that the height of many of them, there seems to be no real standard of height of the ones that I've researched. Is there a precise angle that must be maintained for the, we'll call them semi-vertical parts of the pyramid, not the base, but the risers?
Yeah, I don't know that. I'm told by my guide when I created the copper pyramid that the dimensions that I used were similar to the angles used in the Great Pyramid. But I have never even measured that. I mean, all I know is I created one. Actually, if I think about the height of the one in my down at the Holos building, it's probably only about 6 feet tall. But you can make it almost any height you want.
Okay, and so, so the height is not not important as long as it's a rectangle. Maybe is that?
I think that's so.
Okay,
but it's not a rectangle; it's a square at the base.
I'm sorry, excuse me, a square at the base. Yes. Okay, so if the base is a square, and let's say 54 inches. The total height could be 54 inches, or it could be 64 inches or 44 inches?
Okay. I believe so.
Okay. And do all those pieces of copper, must they be electrically connected to each other? Meaning,
well, they must be physically connected to each other, which makes them electrically connected.
Okay. And then when you power this with the Tesla coil, is there like one lead that goes to it from a driver? Yes.
It's actually a little probe, if you will, with a metal tip. And all you have to do is touch the base of the pyramid.
So, Lou Cassidy, as an engineer, is this shape, this pyramid-type shape? Now, we're not talking about a total envelope of copper. We're talking about, well, think of it like half-inch copper pipe class, copper plumbing, that's in a square at the base. Four sides rise up to a central point in the center above the base, all electrically and physically connected. Is there something about that shape, Lou Cassidy, that makes it a different type of an antenna?
Well, with the square base and the height of the pyramid creates a focal point down in the center of that. And typically you have a chair sitting in the center of the pyramid, creating a focal point right at the body there. And that thing is driven by a Tesla coil, which is a high-voltage coil, and it is fed into the pyramid through a spark gap. And me and Norm adjusted his unit down at the clinic with the spectrum analyzer to produce the 50 to 72 gigahertz range. We adjusted that spark gap for optimum, radiation under those frequencies. So basically, I think the thing just creates a focal point and aims it at the person sitting in the center of it. And then the high voltage is like the old spark gap transmitter, transmits on all frequencies, and certainly up in the 50 to 72 gigahertz range is what we're looking for, and we get radiation in those bands. And that's basically how I see the thing working.
Okay. I remember when I started working on automobiles back in the 1960s, I remember learning that we gap our spark plugs between 25 thousandths and 30 thousandths of an inch. And that gap, in order for electricity to jump that gap, it would have to be somewhere about 25,000 volts. Does that still hold true in this kind of arrangement, Lou Cassidy?
Yeah, the spark gap is probably about 032, roughly.
Okay. All right. We'll be right back. Lou Cassidy, Dr. Shealy. Norman Shealy's with us. Lou Cassidy's with us. And we're talking about copper pyramids. So, Dr. Shealy and Lou Cassidy, what I did was a little bit of quick research during the commercial break. And the base of a pyramid is absolutely square, as we've been talking about it. And let me give you the measurements of the Great Pyramid. Now, it's measured in cubits, C-U-B-I-T-S. That's an ancient measurement standard. And a cubit is 1.5 feet long. So 1 cubit is 1.5 feet long. All right, so the base, any one of the sides of the Great Pyramid, is 440 cubits. The height is 280 cubits. The slope, the length of the slope is 418 cubits. And that was the Great Pyramid. And it looks like, and I haven't done enough research to be certain of this, but it looks like if you were to take a ball, a sphere, and cut it in half, and you put that ball on top of the pyramid, so the highest point of that hemisphere is over the point of the pyramid, the hemisphere would cover the pyramid. So the measurements of the pyramid are pretty darn close to approximating a sphere, but with straight lines. And I never realized that.
Wow.
Until just now. Yeah.
That's interesting, of course.
I don't know. The problem with USA Prepares is we ask more questions that lead to more questions that lead to more questions.
That makes it true science.
Yeah. And one thing is, there's several common threads among the USA Prepares instructors, but all of us are interested in everything, literally everything. And I remember Mrs. Finelli was filling out one of my questionnaires to see a new doctor quite a while ago, and it said hobbies. Like I guess they wanted to know their patient, and the question was hobbies. And I hate filling out things like that, so I always ask Mrs. Finelli to do it for me. She said, it says hobbies. What do you want to put down? And I said, everything. She said, well, what do you mean? I said, or what are your interests? And I said, I'm interested in everything. And it's true. I'm interested in everything. And so is Dr. Shealy, and I'm certain Lou Cassidy is as well.
Yep.
So now the question is, this pyramid, we're talking about a copper pyramid, which has a square base. Dr. Shealy, if it is not attached to anything, and people will get under these and sit in the lotus position and meditate, are we grabbing frequencies out of the air? Very much like when we started this broadcast, I measured, and I described that I measured microwave frequencies, and I'm sure that there's more than just microwave frequencies in our house and as well as outside. Are we shaping, directing, concentrating whatever frequencies these copper tubes pick up in the pyramid, directly under the pyramid, for benefits of health? Are we doing that? Is that what this does?
Well, I don't know. Benefits or not, I don't know. But yes, unequivocally, you're picking up any ambient in the room electromagnetic energy.
Okay. Lou Cassidy, a question for you. So this pyramid shape, if you think about putting a hemisphere over the copper pyramid, that seems to me like a somewhat of a parabolic reflector. Is that how you see this as well?
Yeah, it definitely is a reflector. And if you were to take then, if a hemisphere would fit over one pyramid, if you would take two pyramids and bolt them together, a circle would fit around that, and basically you are just running straight lines inside of that circle. That's the way I see it.
That's correct. That is exactly correct. And it's approximate, but it's pretty darn close in terms of the pyramid, the Great Pyramid, being that close. And it's amazing that long ago that the precision of the Great Pyramid was, I believe, maybe 0.1% being off error, or less than that even, which is just amazing to me.
Right, and ancient people with no technology did that. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the reasons, of course, they believe that E.T. did that.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm looking at a copper meditation pyramid online here, and it looks very similar to the one Norm's got, feeding it with the Tesla coil.
Okay. And how important is the frequency that Dr. Shealy is feeding this? How important is the relationship of the frequency to the length of the legs, if you will?
Well, I don't know that it's related to the length of the legs, but I do know that the frequency that's created, the 52 to 78 billion cycles per second, is exactly equal to what the Ukrainians have defined as human DNA frequency.
Ah, okay.
Maybe the resonant frequency of the DNA strands. I don't know, when you get down into micrometer type measurements like that, which is what 72 gigahertz is.
And that's why I was asking, because of the resonant frequency. Lou, can you describe resonant frequency would you say it's kind of like if you are on a swing set, and like a child swing set, and you have to have a specific motion with your legs? I think that was called pumping. I don't know if that's the term, but you would raise your legs, lean back, and then you'd bring your legs back under you on the downstroke, and then raise your legs up, and you would try to climb higher and higher and higher. And is that the resonant frequency of that swing set? Is that what that is when you reach the maximum height?
Well, that would be kind of like a pendulum effect on there. A resonant frequency is where the wavelength of the frequency in feet or meters or however your millimeters, however you're measuring it, is equal to the length of the antenna or a multiple or submultiple of that wavelength. So in other words,
okay.
If you had an antenna one wavelength long, then one wavelength over time would cover the length of that antenna.
Okay, so then, all right. So that begs the next question. Is a full wavelength antenna better than a half wavelength antenna, better than a quarter, better than an eighth, or would we be better off with a two wavelength antenna?
Well, you've heard of a dipole antenna. A dipole antenna is a half a wavelength on each side, so that one wavelength covers the entire length of the antenna, only you've split the antenna in half, and you have a half wavelength on either side of the dipole, and you feed it in the center. And that, for radio communications, that seems to work out the best. I would call that the best bang for the buck as far as signal strength and antenna length.
Okay, and what Lou Cassidy is talking about, class, is you've seen these. Years ago, probably in the 70s, maybe even through the 80s, probably 60s through the 80s, you would see if you bought a receiver with AM, FM, and an amplifier built in all into one box, hook it up to your speakers, you need an antenna. So for the FM component of that, you would have this piece of what's called twin lead, 300 ohm twin lead, and it was shaped like a T. And it would usually have plastic caps on the end, and it was just a piece of antenna wire, flat 300 ohm antenna wire shaped like a T. And that T formed the dipole, and the center portion of the T would be the lead wire from the dipole.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. So that's what Lou Cassidy is saying. And half of the full length of the top of the T would be one wavelength. From the end of either end of the T to the center of the T would be half a wavelength. So you take two half wavelengths, put them together, and you get a full wavelength with the lead in being the vertical portion of the T. Okay. Is there anything else that we can learn from these pyramids, meditation, frequencies? Is there anything else that we need to know about that, Dr. Shealy?
Well, no. I mean, my study is only in relation to telomere regeneration and its effect upon autoimmune diseases. I haven't done any other actual research on the copper pyramid with the Tesla coil.
Okay. When we talk about, I'm very, very concerned about the fifth generation of microwave or millimeter wavelength communications that's being deployed right now throughout the world. Now, we started out with 1G, then we had 2G, 3G, 4G, and now we're up to 5G. And it seems that each time we go to another G or generation of wireless communications, the frequencies get higher. And as the frequencies get higher, they travel a shorter distance. As they travel a shorter distance, they need more power to overcome the fact that physically that these wavelengths don't travel as far. Is that correct, Lou? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, pretty much. You either need more power or you need repeaters. You need one to talk to another one that's closer in than the other ones were.
Okay. So, for example, AM radio, which has a longer wavelength than FM radio, AM radio, you can hear that for hundreds of miles when at night during quiet times and during skip. FM, you're looking at 50 miles, maybe 50 miles, but that's a higher frequency. And then cell towers are at a fourth generation or even a higher frequency. And why do they have cell towers every couple of miles? Because that's as far as they go.
Line of sight.
Line of sight. And then 5G is an even higher frequency. And let's talk about that when we come back with Dr. Norman Shealy and Lou Cassidy. Because now we're talking about every couple of 100 feet for an antenna. Higher power. Shorter wavelength. More damage. Cooking is faster. Dr. Norman Shealy is with us, normshealy.com, normshealy.com. Dr. Shealy, to get in touch with you, if someone wants to come visit you at your clinic, what number should they call?
417-351-5221.
Class, that's 417-351-5221. And that's in Springfield, Missouri. I've got a quick couple announcements, things I think you should pay attention to. There is a search engine, you know that Google and all the other search engines that come to mind quickly have been tracking your every move. You know that. Okay. Well, there's one that claims they don't track you for now. It's called DuckDuckGo. DuckDuckGo.com. DuckDuckGo.com. So you might want to consider trying that and making that your default search engine. The next thing is, I have some homework that is absolutely critical that you do. If you plan on surviving, and I've never said this before, but this is mandatory. There's a television series called Survivors, Suvivors. It was produced by BBC, British Broadcasting Company, in 1975 and 1976. There are actually 3 seasons, but the 2 that I really want you to watch are Series 1 and Series 2. Survivors, BBC. If it doesn't say BBC, it's not the one. It's available on Amazon. I bought one this morning. I've been watching one that I got, which is a European version. It is riveting. You will be addicted to it. It's in black and white, and it's very slow. It will cost you about $20. Make sure you get one that is set for the version to be watched in the United States if you have a United States DVD player. It will teach you so many things that you have not thought about. Of course, you know about food. It talks about the supply chain, but it talks about the human interaction. Very serious human interaction. I think it is about as accurate as can be. And it will teach you who you can let in your home and who you can't. I don't believe that without this type of information, you will not survive. It's a pretty strong statement. And for those of you who end up watching it, I invite you to call in and let us all know what you think. Is what I've said accurate or not? And where did I learn about it? Joey in Michigan, USA Prepares instructor, said, Vinny, you have got to get this series. And Joey's frugal, as frugal as I am. He doesn't waste any money. And when Joey said, you've got to spend, $20 and buy this, I did. And he was absolutely right. So it's called Survivors. And I ordered another one. And I know that once you get this, you're going to want to share this with other people. But you're going to want it back. So you're going to probably want to make them sign an agreement with you that, okay, they can borrow it, but they're going to have to return it in good working condition.
Or a catastrophe.
Yeah, and I'm very serious. So Dr. Shealy and Lou, please consider that. It is that good because there are things that we haven't thought about. Like, you say to a person, okay, we're all going to have to take turns. One of us is going to have to go to the north quarter of the property and post guard. Okay, so a person goes out to the North Quarter, and then what is your confidence that that person is not going to fall asleep overnight? What is your confidence that that person is not going to go sightseeing and wander off and not do what he agreed to do? What is your confidence? What is your confidence that if you have food storage, that someone's not going to say, you know what, I'm really hungry. I'm just going to raid it in the middle of the night. I don't care about anybody else. I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat their food too. I mean, what is your confidence about those types of things? It will make you wide awake to those kinds of situations. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So that's Survivors. And there's one other one, and that's on YouTube, and it's called Terms and Conditions May Apply. Terms and Conditions May Apply. Please consider watching that. Survivors is the most important, though. Lou Cassidy, thank you so much for being with us. Dr. Norman Shealy, thank you so much for being with us. Class above all, honesty and integrity.